Maybe it's your personal brand or the company you just started kicking on forward, but there seems to be always this one looming question that is asked of creative directors and marketers who are tasked with helping a brand. How do we make our project sell itself? How do we become the next Apple or Nike? The answer is, you don't. That's me, Gosha. I'm a creative director that has worked with some of the giants like Google and KFC, but also with a lot of newcomers, managing projects to well over $1 million worth of creativity. And after working in the agency world for half a decade, running projects into the ground and new agency and studio highs, I've realized that the only way to separate yourself is by building worlds instead of product-first brands. Let's elaborate in 3 usable and effective focus areas. Sponsors and influencers don't sell, they exhaust. Your audience comes before the product, the journey sells, and the destination scams. If you ever saw a really great movie, try to remember some of your favorites. Surely you remember the main characters' names, and you could even imagine them living outside of the script, outside of the boundaries of Hollywood and this specific movie. But even with great actors, there are some roles in some movies where you just sort of think about it and you're like, what's that train movie with Brad Pitt? And this is the exact same separation that we can see with great brands and brands that are just pretty good. But there is an extra layer, and sometimes an actor or an actor's brand can overshadow the entire movie, the company, or the product. Think of Apple or Tesla or other companies that have a CEO or a founder that has so much buzz and so much controversy that it's pulling attention away from the company or towards. Now, sometimes a personality can serve the business very, very well, even if they're criticized for poor management or miscommunication. A bright example of this is the guy you see on our thumbnail, Steve Jobs. Hate him or love him, Steve Jobs is an icon to entrepreneurs simply for his audacity and for his agency to just make things happen. If he doesn't embody a great friend, father, or boss, he is a pretty goddamn good entrepreneur.
They want to modify, they want to jack it up. They want hardware engineers like me to expand its capabilities, okay? Keyboards for music, better soundboard, better display boards, improved memory cards. And it's why there are 3,000 people here right now. The slots are what allow the Apple II to run. For just one example, VisiCalc, which for my guess single-handedly sold between 2 and 300,000 machines. They want slots.
They don't get a vote. When Dylan wrote Shelter from the Storm, he didn't ask people to contribute to the lyrics. Plays don't stop so the playwright can ask the audience what scene they'd like to see next. Painters are on the verge of a tectonic... Hobbyists? A printer and a modem, 2 slots.
Steve Jobs had something so many current day CEOs are looking for in every single meeting and every single day and every single quarter. And that thing is real character. He wasn't wearing a title or a costume. Steve Jobs was Apple, and Apple was, well, it was Steve Jobs. And let me give you a counter example. For this one, we'll take the Whoop. If you haven't heard of the Whoop, it's basically a screenless screen/health tracker, more focused on the health side than the fitness side. I wear one simply out of the sake of accountability as an athlete, and I can certainly admit it's more of a luxury than a necessity or anything you really need rather than want. And Whoop sold me specifically through Blitzkrieg marketing, and more on that in a different video to come in the future. And so what's the example? Even with sit-down interviews and so much personal statistics in the form of health metrics, Whoop fails to create any connection with the people that represent them the most, their ambassadors, their influencers, really anyone who is the face of the brand. So when Whoop made a few complex errors in the rollout of the new Whoop, the Whoop 5.0, I wasn't really surprised with the massive backlash. See, when you have an entire cast of characters and costume-esque people that are just serving as the billboard of your brand, you can't really ask anyone to help, to stand up, to apologize. You can't connect with the audience. You can't tell them why this change was made, that whatever the reason for Whoop to make those changes, there wasn't a person that could go out and honestly say, hey, let's stand up for the brand. Let's believe it will do better and let's continue supporting it. And even with names like Cristiano Ronaldo backing the brand, he's really not a talking head for them. He's more, again, of a face and an ambassador. And this is where small brands take advantage in the guerrilla warfare that is marketing, and this is where they quickly rise up. Ad budgets aren't as important when marketing activations and campaigns are led by the founder or the face that is behind the creation of the product. The examples are countless, and I suggest watching any of the dozens of videos we've made on specific person-to-person case studies or companies and brands. So let's put 2 and 2 together and make that 100. Big corporations often fail because they have a failure to put up a face or a real person or persona to connect with the customer through failure or through wins.
What does it take to launch a brand and become the #1 in your category? Well, in our case, we launched the biggest marketing campaign our country had ever seen. Twice. Last year, my business partner Arda Sachi ran 3,000 kilometers from Berlin to New York. A camera crew documented every single step. We turned the story into content and spread it across the internet, reaching well over 1 billion views.
The smaller or mid-sized brands in the same niches are taking over more and more market share because their founders are not scared to get closer and closer and build a relationship with the audience by telling real stories and showing real emotions in response to audience feedback. So use that to your advantage. Talk to every customer like a friend, get feedback, implement it into design, talk to your community about every single thing. Bash connectivity and warmth into your audience, into everyone that is a competitor. Make people talk about you and your connection and your relationships with your audience in their boardrooms. And soon you won't be only taking their attention and their audience, but market share as well. Before we move forward with chapter 2, I do want to mention that we put more than $5,000 into YouTube videos every single month. So far, most of the partnership and sponsorship opportunities that we've been offered on the channel haven't really matched up with the audience that we've created here. Very founder heavy, very entrepreneurially driven. So I decided to sponsor myself with a product that I use myself, that I also build myself. It's nothing big yet, but I think it will be very, very useful. It's for the creative, and again, could be of massive use to you, but maybe not, and it's up to you to decide. You can read about the product with a link in the description. Let's get to chapter 2, building an audience before you build the product. Sounds easy. Go pump out some reels, go pump out a ton of stories and short form content, make an Instagram broadcast channel, get a bunch of following, launch whatever product, you're ready, you're done, good to go, bam, wham, $1 million. In fact, if you're struggling at all, there's going to be someone that's going to DM you, they're going to say they have a killer offer for you, they're a insane product builder, you go 50-50 on a company and you can retire a few future generations at 25. But myself and yourself, we aren't stupid, and we know that most of those offers are a sham. And it's really not that hard to prove. There are hundreds, if not thousands of followers with hundreds of thousands and millions in following that are repackaging the same offer backed and drafted for them by the same people over and over again. Or they're creating a product that is so much weaker than the competition, but because it is them, the people and their audience are willing to buy it. So what's the fix? And again, we go back to Steve Jobs. Although Apple isn't low on profit margin scales, we know the brand both due to high quality of the product and the service. And this is simply because that was part of Jobs' brand. His brand was service, quality, and almost having this asshole-esque persona about how good the product has to be. The product was above the people at Apple. In fact, even his closest partners were less important than what the future of Apple was going to be. And the future was going to be really product heavy. To be able to supply the best products, the service also had to be sublime. Again, you might ask, how does any of this connect to the chapter? And I'll tell you, it connects because Jobs wasn't only ruthless about making his team work for the quality and for the service. He was ruthless in taking over the market. His ambitions were so high, and he knew he put so much into the product and the people that were backing it that there's no way they could fail. And so the marketing was giant. And the audience ate that up. They knew Jobs was pushing all the limits. They knew he was the representation of entrepreneur aesthetics. And if you search up entrepreneur aesthetics on Google Images or Pinterest, you know who will pop up first. We knew him as the cold and calculated genius who built Apple. Developing a deep-rooted aesthetic and understanding and relationship with the audience doesn't just help you service them better or doesn't just help you create better products, but it allows you for full transparency and for full communication and honest communication in the one rare moment that you do let them down. And that moment, it will happen, it will always come, but you can make it right if you're in communication with your audience. This is where we absolutely sauce up any big company that say they're dropping a revolutionary product and it's a huge announcement and product trailer and product video. Again, apart from a very select few, most things are very gradual innovations and the products themselves are not so special. But corporations are now known for these giant announcements, these yearly revolutionary shareholder PR campaigns, and it's been hurting them, while smaller teams are taking advantage of very selective PR that comes rarely. It comes without schedule, it comes without expectations. And the specific way smaller or mid-sized companies are sharing those stories is becoming the biggest revolution on the internet. We covered it before, but we'll cover it again because it is so important. It's called building in public. Unless you're going to compete with the next SpaceX or building the Apple killer, get ready to show up as your product's most unique selling point. Again, let me repeat that. You are your product's most unique selling point, not the product itself, but the person and the team behind everything. Clothing, software, supplements, it doesn't matter. You can name or give me 100 industries and I'll tell you the same exact thing matters the most over and over again. It all leads back to you and your team. You and your team will be that biggest deal breaker or that biggest sales asset in terms of driving growth for your product, but only if you reveal enough for people to really connect with you and build that relationship. When the time does come for you to release that next big iteration or the next big product or the season of drops or designs, whatever it may be, you don't just drop an ad or a tweet. You drop a 100-day challenge or a YouTube series or a live stream or a whole ass documentary. People will buy just to be a part of the journey alone. Again, countless examples are on this channel. What is a better way of showing all the features, all the focuses of a product than documenting exactly how it was built, the thinking, the output that needed to happen and come from it? Anyways, don't take my word for it, because there's industrial companies and mega corporations that we as a company and as a studio get to work with that are focusing on just those things right now. Not the actual product, but the journey in terms of building it. I'm talking about automotive companies and paint companies, billion-dollar brands that have been around for 50 and 100 years that are recognizing that aesthetic products aren't just built with a label and in the lab, but they're built by the people and for the people.
So what's this? What is it? I guess it's that feeling that's only accessible through hard work. That momentary feeling you chase your entire life. It's one of life's great things. And it's a great thing you only get if you do a really hard thing.
Oh, and mentioning that if you do want to work with developing your aesthetic or your brand, drop me an email or a message at goshidolgin.com. All right, one more thing before we get to the outro. I think quite a lot of robotic content right now. I think a lot of praise for AI is happening right now, and it's all for the better because it lets the smaller man or woman or company compete. But I do think you can't really understand what is the best way to use AI or template content if you haven't created unique content before. That being said, I think brands and some of the brands that we've worked with recently have really gotten a big boost to their marketing when they have overspent in terms of production quality into their content. They have understood what's it like to work with a creative director, with a videographer, and I think it opens sort of their eyes on, hey, this is the next stage of investments we need to make. So therefore, with the small budgets that we have now, we have to make a killing, we have to make it profitable, and then understand that the next profits will be invested into this. So wanted to share that last thought almost as a rant of, you can't underspend as the next step in fighting for attention with big companies. You really have to truly, build with a little bit of sacrifice in the future in mind. And obviously what we're doing here with the channel as well, with investing so much into the quality and the storytelling, has been big too. Obviously this is the first video in maybe 3 or 4 weeks, depending on when it drops. And that is because we've been focused so much on 2 sort of product packages / marketing funnels. Not sure what's the best way to call it. That is my personal website. That is goshadogan.com. Should be live now. If it's not, hold me accountable on that, please. And the second one is obviously the Notion. The Notion is giant. It's something that hopefully helps fund a lot of the activities we do for the channel. With that being said, it's definitely the first, but definitely not the last thing we do in terms of products on the channel. Next videos should be a little bit more entertaining in terms of the dynamics, in terms of the camera work, in terms of the production. Obviously want to get back into the flow of things and talk to the audience, see what you're feeling, what you're not. If you have feedback on the topics or what you want me to talk about next, drop me a DM or email gosha@the37.com, or obviously drop a comment. Hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you very, very soon. Thank you and peace.